Ladies and gentlemen, children of all ages, welcome to the Wrestling Den with Rick and Kenny. And now, Nick as well. Please welcome Nick, our newest addition to the Wrestling Denizen. As always, we got Kenny over here to me. Over on the side. I did it right. And then we got down somewhere over here is Nick. Anyways, I'm going to stop at the point because I never get that right. But either way, Nick is our newest addition. I wanted to start off and say thank you, Ron, as always, and thank you, Eric, as always, for hosting us on the Sports Unfolded page. We're going to be moving now, as of today, officially from bi-weekly to weekly. So, and we're also moving from a half hour to an hour. That's right. You get a whole other half hour with us because apparently a half hour wasn't enough. So from 7 p.m. Eastern to 8 p.m. Eastern, you can be seeing us, these three faces. All right, so we're going to be live on Rhode Island Broadcasting, YouTube, and Sports Unfolded every Thursday, 7 p.m. You can go follow us on Sports Unfolded on Facebook and Twitter at Sports Unfolded. Follow us on Anchor, Spotify, and Google Podcast. So, where do we begin? Tonight's episode is going to be actually taken off from 2 weeks ago. We were talking about movies and wrestling, right? Can you remember that conversation we had?
Oh, yeah.
One of the things we talked about was They Live with Roddy Piper. And I had the fortune of watching that movie, and I did. I followed up on my promise. I watched They Live in full last night up until like 3 o'clock in the morning with my on my stream. So I tell you what, that movie is, my mind is blown. I'm ready to talk about it, dude. I wasn't sure what I was prepared for, but I didn't realize how impactful that movie was. And that actually kind of brings me to basically tonight's conversation is, what kind of impact have wrestlers and in the movie industry and vice versa have had in the business. Obviously there's They Live. You got Ready to Rumble is one of my favorites personally. The Guardians of the Galaxy, if you want to talk about current, Chris Hemsworth is actually going to be doing a biopic for Hulk Hogan called Hulkamania. We'll talk about that. Urban Commando. There's quite a few. Guys, you want to name off any movies that you have seen? Jingle All the Way, Big Show.
Wow.
No, I was going to say, you're talking about biopics. You guys can hear me all right?
Oh, yeah, we can hear you just fine.
Yeah. I was going to say, they were talking about a Vince McMahon one, too, like a while back as well, which I thought is interesting that now enough time has passed, 20, 30 years, from when Hogan was in the big spotlight, the golden age of wrestling and stuff. And then same thing with Vince McMahon as a promoter. Now it's getting to the point where let's make movies about these people's lives, just like they did with, Freddie Mercury and Bohemian Rhapsody and Rocket Man with Elton John. So not even just people in the music industry, but people in the wrestling industry. They're like, oh yeah, I'd love to see a movie about Vince McMahon's life because that guy sounds like an absolute lunatic. So I want to, of course they're going to water it down and he's not going to look like the biggest jerk in the world. But I just like that concept. I didn't know about the Hemsworth one and Hogan. That one seems like, how do you get Chris Hemsworth, who's kind of trimmed down, body wise, to be Hulk Hogan, who's just this monstrous dude with 24-inch pythons and stuff. So some of those older ones, I know that there's wrestlers making spot appearances in movies and stuff like that, even before Hogan. But Hogan was the first one who was treated like a movie star. He's a larger than life thing. Started with Rocky 3. He comes in as Thunder Lips. Has a great scene. He's pressing Sylvester Stallone over his head and throwing him into the crowd and stuff. And you're just like, this guy's great, right? And then then he gets his own movies, like you said, Suburban Commando, and there's Mr. Nanny, Santa with Muscles, stuff like that. But none of those are blockbusters, right? They're just they are what they are. They're just movies with wrestlers, which kind of probably makes it a little bit harder as time goes on for The Rock to break in, or Austin in the Condemned in movie, later on the Scorpion King and things like that, because Hogan kind of made it wrestlers can be in movies, but it's a B movie type thing. Same thing kind of happens with video game movies, where you don't get a good video game movie anymore because all the early video game movies were the shits, So
I think Undertaker did a 2-episode stint. What was his character's name? Soul Chaser Demon. It was Poltergeist, the Legacy. His guy was Soul Demon Chaser or Soul Chaser Demon.
Is this like early '90s kind of thing, or?
Yeah. This was it was a dud, but like it was like pretty much one of those instances where like one of these guys that were coming up because it worked so well with Hulk Hogan in the early '80s. You know, like they decided that they were going to expand more in the '90s because you had 1988. They Live, Roddy Piper, dude. That is going to be the shining star of the night because I watched that movie and I'm thinking to myself, you know, as I watch this movie with Roddy Piper in it, and I see was it Keith David was the role next to him in terms of like it was the other guy, and I'm thinking I'm like 1 year prior we had Predator, which actually had Jesse the Body Ventura in it, which is pretty cool.
Right.
So there's another wrestler that's been in a movie the year before that, and it had Arnold Schwarzenegger in it, right? And I'm thinking to myself, I'm watching They Live, and I'm thinking, here's your wish version of of Dutch and Dylan, dude. Yeah, Dylan, you SOB, dude. I'm watching these two, man, and like that's what I got right out of it, like right out the gate, dude. And like they had a 10-minute fight scene over him trying to put on the glasses.
You know, what's weird too is like you were talking about Rocky, right? And there's Apollo Creed's Carl Weathers. Carl Weathers is in Predator as well. So there's like this whole like run around of like these big muscly dudes in movies. Because if you watch Predator as well, like you said, the body's in there, his muscles are glistening, and Schwarzenegger and Carl Weathers, and they're all in the forest like shooting off machine guns. And so does that count as a wrestler movie too with Jesse in it?
Yeah, it does.
Predator,
it does
okay, that might be the best one then, because
I mean, dude, you had an all-star cast.
Yep, sure did.
Batista was in one of the James Bond movies. You know, he's been in Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 1, 2. Obviously, you know, his role in Endgame.
Well, if you want to go through like the chronological order of it, like that's kind of at the tail end of it. Batista being in Guardians now, and like that's more of a he left wrestling and now he's a movie guy. You know, like Hogan, at least when he was doing his movies, his big thing, he was a cornerstone of your wrestling screen as well. Some of these other guys, like The Rock, has to move away from wrestling to be in movies. Meanwhile, Hogan was like double dipping in in the ring and on the screen. So thought that was interesting.
I think Expendables, especially 3, I think they had a lot of opportunity for like a cast like that, like to be able to get guys like wasn't Stone Cold in Expendables in one of the Expendables?
Oh, I'm sure. Yeah, he's known as a action star now too.
They basically got just like about anybody they could think of that's an action star and then threw them into a movie and it worked. Like they had Rocky in there, you know, they had both Arnold Schwarzenegger, they had Stallone, they had everybody in there. Was it Randy Couture was in there?
Do you think that they figure? Do you think that they figure? Oh, guys who like action movies like wrestling, so let's shoehorn some wrestlers in there, and then it will get the best of both worlds kind of thing. So everybody wins that way. That's probably the deal. It was interesting in like the early 2000s that The Longest Yard had multiple wrestlers in it too. It was like Goldberg for sure. I think Nash is in that movie. And of course, in the 90s, he's the Super Shredder, but you don't get like he's not like he's in there as himself. Meanwhile, like Hogan gets to be again good. Just going back to the start of the whole thing, he's like on the marquee kind of thing. Nash is like the Super Shredder in a suit, and these other guys are like bit parts. It's every time someone become the WWF champion in the 90s for long enough, they're like, oh, well, let's put him in movies and let's do this and that. And even Bret Hart took some time off from wrestling to do, I think it was Lonesome Dove or something, right? Some cowboy thing on USA Network or something.
Yeah, Lonesome Dove. Yeah.
So like all these guys, you're in the entertainment business. You're in Vince McMahon's production quality for so long. They figure you can take direction, and be an actor but some guys, like especially Bret Hart, he's not the best talker in the world. He wasn't the best guy on the mic. So I don't know if
I mean he was the best there was, the best there was, the best there ever will be. In Canada, maybe.
No, in the ring. No, in the ring, he's the ring general. He's the man. Like Bret can wrestle a broomstick to a 4-star match at least. But like
on mic, he's like the most brutiest guy ever because he's so salty.
He's just Bret Hart. Like the promos don't need to be much. Let him say a few things and then move on. And then just give you that great match, and then that's that. No need to say anything. Do your talking in the ring.
I mean, you're both a little bit just a little bit older than me, so I figured like picking your brains on like the movies that were like earlier would be like best. You know, I'm like 30, so like '90s on, I can tell you, but as far as '80s go, like I said,
I don't think there's much. Unless Kenny can think of anything outside of They Live, and which is They Live's kind of a cult thing, and then all of Hogan's stuff was like bigger. Yeah, longest shot, like
wasn't
is,
Kane
like,
in a
later.
horror movie?
yeah, See No Evil.
Yeah, See No Evil.
Oh,
Okay,
yep. Yeah, and that's like 2000, 2001, 2002.
Well, again, so like Restream talked about, like you have Andre the Giant and Princess Bride. Obviously, that's like one of the
that's huge.
like one,
yeah.
that's huge. That's huge.
Anybody want a peanut? Yeah.
John Cena and Trainwreck was probably one of his best movies. He was in Bumblebee. Who cares? Like John Cena had the Marine.
It's really interesting. He's gonna be in that Fast and Furious movie as well.
Yes.
He's gonna be like Vin Diesel's brother, and they're like got some sibling rivalry. He's gonna try to kill him for 90 minutes or something. This is gonna be
What's
great.
funny is I was talking to somebody at work, like literally it was yesterday or the day before. I think it was actually Eric I was talking to. We were talking about Fast because we were talking about like wrestlers and movies and stuff. But we were talking about Fast and the Furious, and I think I was talking about somebody else about it as well. Just like how it evolved from Vin Diesel and like racing cars, like Need for Speed, into we're saving the world, and The Rock comes involved and gets involved. You know, you got all these big guys. I'm like, watch, John Cena's going to come into it next. I didn't even know the dude was going to be into the next Fast. Okay, and then I just saw like last night the headlines.
Hey, look, you lucky it wasn't the Miz that they wrote into it. Okay,
well, like the Marine 6 or whatever.
It's Cena. It's not some crossover. The Marine comes after Vin Diesel's crew or whatever. You're lucky.
His car, dude. He wants his car.
Better thank your stars that it's John Cena, and not Ted DiBiase Jr. You know, you get.
I think Cena actually. So I don't really care about Bumblebee too much, but I feel like it. For me, I watched Transformers 1 and 2, and then I fell off the series. And then John Cena came into it with Bumblebee. I think he actually helped that series kind of like it was a dead in the water series that he kind of helped reinvigorate, almost like the Fast series, like something that could have died.
Well, Rick, what's an interesting kind of thing too is not just necessarily wrestlers in movies playing characters like but also like wrestlers playing wrestler bit parts in movies too. Is like as mentioned, like Captain Insano, the Big Show in Waterboy, and that's just a bit part.
Captain Insano shows no mercy.
Yeah, and he's just riffing on Bobby Boucher and stuff. But
wait, Kevin Nash was in Grandma's Boy?
Was he? Is that in chat?
Yeah, Eric's talking about it. I know Kevin Nash was in Magic Mike XXL. Not that I watched it or anything. I just happened to do a little bit of research, found out he was in Magic Mike XXL. But
I don't know. Kevin Nash has spent his entire professional career, and don't be acting like you ain't seen Magic Mike, but
I actually have not. Is that the next movie I gotta watch?
In his whole professional career, like finding himself in positions to make stacks of money. Like I said, Super Shredder with New Line Cinemas and all that stuff. And then he's also in The Longest Yard. If he was in Magic Mike and Grandma's Boy, if he's in he might be the wrestler. He might be in more movies than Hogan as like bit parts and things like that, and getting paid. And he's probably the guy with the least amount of talent that I've seen given the most opportunities in wrestling. So is it like, and I guess that is a talent. Maybe I shouldn't be putting the cart before the horse. Maybe getting paid and being on your TV and doing it and putting in the bare minimum of work, maybe that is a talent.
You want to know who else made their actual movie debut in Magic Mike XXL? That's a wrestler. They're credited as Leather-Faced Old Man.
Is it Ric Flair?
Woo!
Oh my gosh, it's Ric Flair.
It's Ric Flair, baby. I mean, he was in Baywatch in the 90s, but like his actual movie debut was in Magic Mike XXL.
As long as he doesn't take his pants off and start elbow dropping his khakis, then
don't be surprised, dude. It's Magic Mike.
Greatest promo ever.
All right.
Ever.
No, but then he follows it up with like a kayfabe heart attack, So maybe Rick needs to take it down a few notches.
Yeah.
Hey, listen, all I'm saying is don't forget about my boy. Oh yeah, Spider-Man.
Yeah.
And just like the Captain Insano thing, he's actually like playing a wrestler in that movie.
Playing a wrestler, yeah.
So that helps too. And like I don't care what Tobey Maguire says about his wrestling outfit. I thought it was adorable. So
it was cute. He was Bonesaw. He had a whole gimmick.
And his husband bought it for him. So
They have like a whole thing of that, like a comic about like how he's talking about like he brings up that one line and then he's like, "Hey, listen, don't judge me based off of what like
right,
he
his personal
cuts him down, dude. Yeah. Oh, by the way, Edge. Okay, he was in Vikings. He did was it Haven? He was in he guest starred in the Flash. So just like I'm pretty sure even was it Highlander Endgame? Like not even just wrestling alone, like as far as movies go, but even in like just the small time productions, like television, like um was it Mad TV? They had a whole thing with wrestlers on it. I think that was one of the things that really is. People look at wrestling and they see like, oh, here's these guys in tights wrestling, but if you realize like the kind of grip that they have on like the television aspect of it, like you were talking about with Vince McMahon, the production value, like you're talking these guys like read off of scripts just like actors do. They're acting with each other, they're selling moves, they're doing choreographic stuff like stunt doubles would do. Like they're doing their own stunts pretty much. Like they're pretty much the next level up from an actor. They're doing their own stunts. They're your Jackie Chan's and your freaking Tom Cruises, bro.
Well, Rick, also, you're saying like about scripted, like promos, things like that. Through the 80s and 90s, a lot of these guys they could improv as well because they're out there, delivering that kind of their own promos. There's talking points, like scripted moments, but for the most part, they're storytellers and they're out there, delivering their own stuff. Nowadays, a lot of the promos are scripted, and you can kind of tell there's less personality coming out of the wrestlers because they don't get as much of a leash to kind of go out and do their thing. But again, trying to think of your own words to promote something as well as trying to get a script and be told to say something. I don't know which one of those things might be harder. What I missed?
Trying to get lower with you guys.
No, I keep trying to sit up, but like I'm not in a chair that's equal height to my camera. So, and yeah. So to me, like Kenny, what do you think as far as how about in the 90s? Like we were talking about Hogan in the 80s, but like anything in the 90s sticks out to you, wrestlers and movies?
No Holds Barred with Zeus. Remember Zeus?
Oh, for sure. Yeah. Ovid. Yeah.
No Holds Barred, Zeus. What else? I mean, like you said, they were in a ton of TV shows, and that's how Vince got them to cross over. They're in a ton of TV shows. Married with Children. Let's see, In Living Color. You name it, they were in it.
Roadhouse.
Yeah, no,
Roadhouse.
Terry Funk.
Rick had mentioned Mad TV, but they're also like The Rock hosted SNL, and like Triple H was in the crowd, Mankind was there, Big Show, like promoting, when they were doing that stuff in 99. So like wrestling was so big and so hot that you couldn't really keep wrestlers out of other facets of entertainment. I think, it's such a cool time as a wrestling fan and as, anybody else.
Even music videos.
Mm.
One of the biggest things with Hulk Hogan is like how many movies he's been in. You're talking Gremlins 2. I'm pretty sure he's in that. I know he was in Muppets from Space. Because again, like I talked about 2 weeks ago, that was my introduction to pretty much WCW. Was like, as a kid watching Muppets and then watching them come onto the big screen with Muppets from Space. One of my favorite movies just because of that cameo appearance alone. Like Hulk Hogan was big then, Hollywood Hogan, and that's kind of what like bridged that gap. As a child, as a kid from the 90s, that bridged the gap for me for wrestling was Hulk Hogan's cameo appearance as a bodyguard in there. And then into watching wrestling. I'm like, this guy's cool. He's a badass. I gotta see this guy. And then even then with Hulk Hogan, other than that, you got Three Ninjas, High Noon on Million Mountain. Like we talked about that on the phone. And I love Three Ninjas. Okay, that's like such a horrible movie.
The best acting job in that whole movie was the Three Ninjas one. It was Hulk Hogan's toupee that they gave him. That did the best acting in that whole movie. Pretending that guy's got a hairline at all. Like that's the real about it. So
I got to slide more money than Hulk Hogan did to get on that film.
No, Rick, like I was telling you before, one of the reasons big reason Hogan jumped over to WCW as well is like he could do a lighter schedule and do his thing, and he had trimmed out to like be more so a movie guy and be more so like a Hollywood, like you said, star. Even before he was known as Hollywood Hogan, he was doing like taking some time off doing Thunder in Paradise. He was doing those same movies we were just talking about in the 90s. And by that time he's in WCW, and they made it, easier for him to do that because he didn't always have to be the him headlining every single pay-per-view and stuff like that. So
go-to guy, yeah.
I want to point out, because it's fresh in my head, dude, watching They Live. So I just want to say, talk about the impact that wrestlers have, just movies alone. So, okay, Roddy Piper's infamous line, I'm here to chew bubblegum, kick ass, and I'm all out of bubblegum. I just realized that the setting for Duke Nukem is pretty much They Live. Like, literally, the lines that come out of that movie are going straight into Duke Nukem. Like, the inspiration for that line.
Well, with Duke Nukem too, he also does, like, he talks about a boomstick. He references all that stuff, like Evil Dead. He references They Live. Like Duke Nukem, all of his catchphrases were like "Hail to the King, baby." He's like, it's more Evil
But I
Dead
didn't
stuff.
realize the impact that movie had. I'm telling you, like, you say it's a cult, like a cult classic. I had no idea this movie existed until 2 weeks ago.
Because you weren't part of the cult. You weren't drinking the Kool-Aid.
Doesn't matter. I'm drinking the Kool-Aid now, baby. I watched that last night. I'm telling you, there was a 10-minute fight scene over sunglasses. And
they're brawling, dude. They're brawling.
And then they stop, and he smiles, and he's just like smiling at him. And then they start fighting again. And I'm like, what is going on? I got lost in that movie last night, and it's still relevant to this day. They Live is.
I wonder if his fight scene with that guy in They Live, like, gave them the idea for the what is it, the backlot brawl at WrestleMania? Is it like 10 or 11 or something? Him and Goldust beat the crap out of each other. Yes. Roddy Piper and Goldust, but I don't even think Roddy Piper is supposed to be in that fight. I think originally it was like Scott Hall as Razor Ramon was going to go up against Goldust, and they were doing this like Havana street fight, and then like Scott Hall gets suspended for like a drug thing, and then Roddy Piper steps in, beats the crap out of Goldust on pay-per-view. For the record, that's how that played out. So
also, like what Eric's saying, is Rock has surpassed Hogan as #1 wrestler in movies, but I mean that's like saying Nicki Minaj has surpassed the Beatles in
No. You got to give The Rock. Like, I think The Rock's a better actor than Hogan. Like, again, you got to hit.
Like, he's also producing better movies too. Like, again, Three Ninjas, dude. We're talking like again, you want to talk about discount, like Dollar General, like pretty much Mr. Miyagi, Dollar General comes the grandpa out of Three Ninjas. Okay, so like the movies that I think, honestly, Hulk Hogan's biggest, like, his two biggest movies are the ones that you're going to talk about.
So disrespectful what you just said.
I don't care. I really don't care about that. Mr. Miyagi is
The Rock goes there's peaks and valleys, though, because like I had said to you before, Rick, there's like when Rock first gets into movies, Scorpion King, even the Game Plan, stuff like that. It's like he's Dwayne The Rock Johnson, because what they were hoping was like, oh, this is how you know this guy. He's The Rock, Dwayne The Rock Johnson. He got big enough and did well enough as an actor that they dropped The Rock out of his name. Suddenly, he's just actor Dwayne Johnson, to the point where I actually interpret The Rock and Dwayne Johnson in my mind as two different people. It's weird. Yeah. He's two different guys, because The Rock is
Walking Tall. Those were also his big films that he like broke out besides Scorpion King. Which, if I don't know if you remember during the invasion when he was talking to Hurricane in the back, and Hurricane talked about like because he was like talking about superheroes and like making fun of Hurricane, and then Hurricane brought up the Scorpion King about who would get their ass kicked, and he's like, oh no, you did not. Like he literally took a shot at the Scorpion King, and like. Just that's
what are you gonna fight the 3D model of the Scorpion Rock? Dude,
absolutely, Scorpion King too.
The video effects on that, the special effects on that Scorpion version of The Rock, it looks horrible if you go back and look at it now. They need to remaster
the Scorpion King was so good. If the Scorpion King was so good, that second one would actually have included The Rock in it. Okay, not a 3D CGI rendering of the Scorpion King himself.
Hey, which one was cheaper, paying The Rock or just creating a virtual Rock?
Having the Croc show up, dude. The Croc,
broke.
Dwayne the Croc Jackson.
Right, seriously. No, I do think that's interesting, though, because The Rock, he's like, to say my kids are 10 and 6, and like if they grow up and watch movies with Dwayne Johnson in it, are they even going to understand like who The Rock is? To me, that because I think he just transformed into a different guy. I think he turned into someone else over the course of time, and he was there's a word for that I can't think of right now, but he's evolved, from Squirtle the War Turtle. And in this case, Blastoise, now that he's doing like 2 movies a year kind of
Well,
thing.
he's also got his own show now.
Oh, right, Little Rock. Or is that what it's called? Little Rock? Am I
Young
crazy?
Rock.
Am I thinking of Arkansas?
Young Rock.
Oh, sorry, Young Rock.
Young Rock.
It's about him like 2032, like running for president, and like he's telling the story of his background, which is really cool. I like it. I like that it's weird seeing these guys as actors trying to be wrestlers. Like looking at the guy that's playing Andre, who's too skinny to be Andre. The guy who looks like Bradley Cooper wearing a wig, looking like Macho Man Randy Savage. But overall, I think the ones that look closest are the Wild Samoans. The guys that play the Wild Samoans actually look closest to playing, like looking like the Wild Samoans.
They probably got members of that family to do it because I know there's still members of that Samoan dynasty out there. What's that guy's
You
name?
talking about the Fat Toes? No, like that are like in the indie scene.
Yeah, who's the guy who's like really big?
Is it Joey Fatone? I think.
Joey Fatone is in sync.
No. Fat Tone. I'm saying Fatu. Joey Fatu.
You said Joey Fatone.
Oh, I was thinking about Fat Guy.
I'd like to see I want to see Joey Fatone in the ring.
Dude, he would not. Him versus David Arquette, dude.
Right. No. Speaking of like David Arquette, to me,
the vice versa.
Yeah,
Movie
I was gonna
stars
say
in the wrestling scene. Yeah.
I can't believe one. People riff on that Arquette thing, like, oh, how could they make him the WCW champion? And in that time, WCW, and they like hang it on him that it went downhill and it went out of business and stuff. WCW was already on the steady decline before David Arquette came around holding the WCW title. But you realize it was just like some cross promotion thing where he came in and they were promoting Ready to Rumble as a movie, and to me. Yeah, you don't put your heavyweight championship on the guy if you're doing some promo for a movie, but I mean, could be worse. I seen fake Rosie O'Donnell and a fake Donald Trump wrestle on Raw. So, I mean, at least David Arquette was in that triple cage match. At least he was getting some color. I don't remember if he got busted open or not. Actually, did he? But like,
but remember the real Donald Trump was also there too.
Oh, well, yeah, but he wasn't the WWF champion.
Money.
No, yeah, drop $100 bills from the ceiling and go home.
You mean the bucks, like the AEW bucks money?
Trump bucks, yeah.
Trump bucks, yeah.
No, you don't need to put the belt on him, and sometimes it's done with grace, sometimes not so much. RoboCop walks down the aisle and bends up in some bars on a cage. That's probably before your time too, Rick. Like before mine.
No.
It's just.
I remember RoboCop and Sting.
He was Sting's tag team partner.
Yeah.
And he comes out and saves him from the Four Horsemen. So we're saying like, oh, who's the best wrestler to actor, but who's the best, actor to wrestler?
Steve-O. And Chris Pontius.
No, dude, Umaga was like bumping
destroyed him, dude.
Super hard.
Oh, God.
By the way, I just want to say, if you're looking to follow us, follow Sports Unfolded on Facebook and Twitter at Sports Unfolded. Follow us on Anchor, Spotify, and Google Podcast. We're live on Rhode Island Broadcasting, YouTube, and Sports Unfolded every Thursday, 7 p.m.
No, and Rick, I did want to say,
because you're just joining us now.
I don't think I did say it, but thank you. And I told you about proper podcasting and intro etiquette. Thank you for the introduction. Thank you for, keep bringing me on the show. And then, as well as joining you and Kenny here in this rousing roundtable of wrestling. So
glad to have you. And you said David Arquette. Just like Britney Spears' ex-husband was going against John Cena. What was his name?
Federline? K-Fed?
Yeah, K-Fed, yeah.
White beater looking guy?
Yeah.
No, the guy who's most famous for being Britney Spears' husband, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Wearing a white beater.
Yes.
And the time that he took an AA from John Cena.
Yeah.
No, Kenny. So, what do you think is so good? Like we said, best wrestler to switch over as far as his acting career. I'd give the nod to The Rock over Hogan, but we can debate about it. But what do you think as far as the best actor comes over to wrestle, like, and have like an extended run or do something of note?
I don't know about actor turned wrestler.
You want me to list off a couple? Jay Leno tagged with Diamond Dallas Page. If you want to think about one of them.
That's right. Jay Leno. That's right.
And that's actually a good tag match, but that's not like body of work. That's just a one-off.
What about Karl Malone, who also teamed with Diamond Dallas Page?
Yep.
Yeah, but Karl Malone's an athlete. He's not an actor.
Shaquille O'Neal, who was also at Bash at the Beach.
Dennis Rodman, athlete.
Dennis Rodman.
And he was in Universal Soldier, I think, right? With Goldberg and Rodman. Dude. Am I thinking of the right thing? The right crossover is Rodman and Goldberg. Well, Goldberg's in the other one, right?
Crazy to think about. Okay, hold on real quick. Mr. T, all right, Dennis Rodman, Shaquille O'Neal, Karl Malone, all right, all Bash at the Beach. Obviously, like different years. Some of them are the same, some different, but Bash at the Beach, yes. Like if you look it up, Mr. T, what was it, like 1994? He was a special enforcer in Halloween Havoc. And he was also at Bash at the Beach in Orlando.
It's almost like they planned it that way.
I know. Crazy. They paid a lot of guys to show up at Bash at the Beach.
Interesting.
No, at least Malone was hitting the diamond cutter. Like that was cool. And even like the Rodman, if you watch that match, if you watch the Rodman, Hogan, Malone, and DDP match, it's actually not a bad match in and of itself. It probably just goes on too long to have two professional basketball players in there with, a past his prime Hogan and then, a prime DDP.
Well, have you guys watched The Last Dance? Michael Jordan's thing on Netflix.
Yeah.
So a big thing that it brought up was it. So I found this interesting is that it talks about Dennis Rodman, obviously, and during that time, doing the WCW thing, and at the same time going to Las Vegas and doing his thing, and basically like they had to just let Rodman be Rodman and do his thing, and just hope that he would show up. And when he did, he'd come out and he'd play. But like they tried to get a hold of him for like 2 days, and he was not answering his phone. He was on a binger. Just going, dude. And it's like at the same time when they did the whole NWO thing.
Yeah, he's in the back of the limousine or backstage with Hogan or something.
He's just like, I'm not picking up my phone. I'm not like this would be like if Eric's calling me like, hey, dude, it's almost like 7:00. Where you at? And I'm just like not answering. All of a sudden 7:00 hits. Here comes Rick. I'm on the show. I'm ready to go. You know what I mean? Like that was Rodman, dude. He wasn't answering until it was bell time, and then he was going. Right. Mm-hmm. So it's like his big thing was like showing up and doing the WCW thing, being part of the NWO. Like they wanted him to focus, and he was like focused on other things, like I'm going to be part of the NWO and all this stuff. And also, when he came on the thing, though, that's just one of those prime examples of somebody like Rodman who's just. It's weird how he's a sports guy, but he's also very well known in the wrestling world, just like ICP, unfortunately, in WCW for things that they did outside of like their actual talents. Like that will always be a bet in my head that Dennis Rodman is a part of the NWO.
Oh yeah.
Mm-hmm. Right.
But
for sure, I think that pop culture, like wrestling, became a pop culture like staple for a while there. So, like I said, the crossover was easy. I think it was that wrestling got so hot that it couldn't be denied as far as leaking over into the pop culture consciousness. So,
like, anybody watch Mayweather versus Logan Paul?
Yeah, I did.
I did too. I didn't have to pay for it, fortunately, because I'm still asking for my money back. But regardless, one of the things that they showed in Floyd Mayweather's fights, tail of the tape, was him knocking Big Show in his slacks, dude.
He broken his nose.
Yeah, they counted that as an actual boxing match. I don't know why they brought it up as an actual like thing, but it was in the tail of the tapes for that match. And I did watch the Tyson match, and that's what made me feel like Logan Paul versus Mayweather was going to end the way that it did, because watching Tyson get clinched and hugged for like the whole whatever rounds he did was 8 rounds, and that's how it went, and it came down to a draw. That's how I saw this coming out, and that's how it happened. But that's just the whole Big Show thing alone right there was like, that's a big staple for Floyd Mayweather, was that he punched Big Show in the face and broke his nose, to the point where they even talked about it at the fight, like it was an actual thing, even though it was like,
well, no, that's good though. It's good that ESPN, Sports Center, these guys at this boxing arena are treating wrestling, trying to treat it like it's a real physical altercation type deal. To me, that legitimizes wrestling better. That can only better the product. The more real you think it is, the more money you're willing to spend on it. And unlike MMA and unlike boxing, you spend $50 on a pay-per-view and now it's $9.99 on the network or watch it on Peacock or whatever it is. But you do that, you pay money to watch it. You want a spectacle. You don't want them hugging each other for 30 minutes. You don't want, like an MMA fight. It's cool when someone knocks someone out in 16 seconds, but you also paid $50 to watch 16 seconds of a fight.
Whereas it used to be about the same to watch a whole pay-per-view, and it is for AEW. Like to watch a pay-per-view, and you know what you're paying for is what you're gonna get. Whether you hate it or not, you're gonna get a show.
It blows my mind though, because even then, sometimes wrestling promotions cheap out on you. They promise you like a main event, and they give you like a DQ finish. There's no resolution.
A dusty finish.
A schmaz guy comes in, and like somebody gets hurt, gets replaced with someone else. You don't get the advertised main event, that kind of thing. So in wrestling, when that happens, it blows my mind because it is mapped out to week after week. So
okay, I'm gonna throw this out there. Kenny, you're my field reporter, bud. This is a Spotlight Hour. I don't know if you've ever played Pokemon Go. I do, but Spotlight Hour, baby. There's a lot of going on. We want to know, Kenny, what are you thinking about right now? What do you think about all this and taking this all in? I want your opinions, man. I feel like I'm saying too much. I want to hear you.
You want to hear me?
Reporter. I want to hear you, man. I want to hear our field reporter. What's our field reporter going to say? Yeah.
Field reporter? I think we're doing a great job. What he said was Mayweather, but the first person was Mike Tyson. Mike Tyson, remember Austin and Tyson, DX and Tyson, now that was great too. It's just like this likes to recycle storylines, which I really hate, but sometimes they're good. You know what I'm saying? He likes to recycle storylines after storylines. I guess what goes around comes around in wrestling.
There's I know what you're saying about recycling stuff. Some stuff does feel recycled. Other times it's like a callback. I think a callback can be done as long as it's subtle. If Mike Tyson's in the ring in AEW now, you're like, okay, well, that's not when Mike Tyson was the baddest man on the planet. Now he's old Mike Tyson that was in The Hangover, and he looks like $1 million, and he could probably still kick my ass, in the blink of an eye. But like, it's not the same as Tyson and Austin. Like you said, that was such a spectacle. Tyson comes in to promote, and then Austin comes out to ruin it, and they're pushing each other, and everyone's like, all the bodyguards are losing their mind, and Patterson and Briscoe and Sergeant Slaughter are falling around the ring, and that's beautiful stuff. And then it all ends with Tyson as the enforcer at WrestleMania, and then
I'm surprised we didn't talk about that first, man. I'm surprised we didn't talk about that first in terms of big things.
There's so much of it. There's so many like athlete crossovers. There's so much actor crossover because wrestling is a performance art. Wrestling is an athletic competition. It's the only thing that's both. It's the only thing that you get, to promo something and then get in and do your athletic competition. So to me, there's so much opportunity for crossover. We didn't even talk about WrestleMania when he's bringing in like Cyndi Lauper. He's bringing in, as far as music goes, he's bringing in Mr. T, like you had mentioned, Mr. T later at Bash at the Beach, but he was also at WrestleMania. Yeah. Like there's another Rocky.
Before we continue, I just want to say for anybody just joining us late, we're live on Rhode Island Broadcasting, YouTube, and Sports Unfolded every Thursday, 7 p.m. now. Follow Sports Unfolded on Facebook and Twitter at Sports Unfolded. Follow us on Anchor, Spotify, and Google Podcasts. Dude, you get to see these three lovely gentlemen right now. All right, go give us a follow. I just want to throw that out there for anybody just joining us late. That's where you can follow us every Thursday, 7 p.m. The bell will ring and we'll be here. Now, go ahead, continue. Also, by the way, everybody who is watching, we're going to be hosting a poll. Okay, who do you think had the best opinions tonight? Because whoever had the best opinions tonight is the champion of the week.
Ooh, okay.
All right, so whoever gave the best take.
I didn't know there was a title on the line. I'd have brought better opinions.
Listen, me and you have gone one-on-one before, Nick. You should know that anytime, any place, anywhere, right?
No, I fight dirty, dude. I'll come to I'll like go and make sure there's an outage in your area as far as internet goes. You'll be breaking up. No one will be able to hear your opinions, and then I'll be the champ by default. I'll win by DQ, dude. I don't care. Like, I'll fight dirty. Dirtiest player in the podcasting game here.
What's funny is that of all the things we've never talked about, one of them is Mickey Rourke and the Wrestler. And that movie alone is what I think for even casual wrestling fans, that movie was done so well that, didn't that I don't know, did it get an Emmy? Is it an Emmy?
No,
what did it Grammy?
Grammy TV.
Is it Grammy?
Grammy's music. Grammy's music.
Music.
Oscar. Fucking
Academy Award. Academy Award.
Did it get an Academy Award?
No, Oscar's like which movie? Which movie? Are we
The Wrestler with Mickey Rourke, dude. Not Ricky Rourke, Mickey Rourke.
Oh, right. No, it's probably won an Academy Award or some kind of Oscar, I'm sure.
Yeah.
No, I'm not.
All right. Remember, we're PG-13. My bad.
Sorry, that was my bad. Was it me?
It was both of our bad. No, I think it was me.
Oh, oops.
I got excited. We're gonna.
How about this? We'll put it now. We got to put him in timeout. We got to suspend him in a cage above the ring because now he doesn't get an opinion. So I win the belt by default, right?
That's not even fair.
No.
Wrestler won an award.
Okay. As far as is anybody even? All right, Kenny. So I know that you're still watching. You're still watching wrestling. Nick, are you watching anything at the moment?
I'm following it for the most part, like loosely. Honestly, it's not. Without getting into the.
I will say
lack of live crowd. Like
I will say as far as isn't who was it that was doing live crowd? Wasn't AEW that's doing live crowds now?
Yes.
Yeah, they switched back to live crowds.
I'm
WWE
surprised that WWE is not
following suit. I don't know.
Maybe
they spent all that money on the Thunderdome thing, so they don't want to.
By the way, I was live on SummerSlam, and I was in 5 different spots, and one of them was actually front row. It's the first time I've ever been front row at a wrestling event. Was SummerSlam last year, and it was great. I was all over the place, and
you and Pikachu were in the front row, right?
Yeah, and the other guy we're not going to talk about who should have. I don't know how he got through, but he did.
Right.
We're in things yet.
Wait.
But
so Hell in the Cell, right, is coming up. I think right.
That's the big thing. But here's one of the things that you have to ask yourself. So a few stars have been released, big stars that actually one of them being A-lister Black, who literally just did something on live TV and then got canned. Same with Buddy Murphy. Like we're talking about people that just got canned. Lana finally got canned. I don't know what took them so long. But they had
Vince likes blondes, so it always takes a while for them to go away.
It takes a while for them to go away, but he finally did it. So there's a few people that got released. They're talking about A-lister Black being a mistake because there's budget cuts. Oh, and Braun Strowman of all people, like a big guy, talking about somebody that got released. Like all these people got released, and they're talking about maybe A-lister Black was a mistake. There's rumors that they might, unfire him, quote unquote. I don't know.
Well, Rick, like Jim Cornette says, how can we miss you if you won't go away? So maybe like EC3, like Drew McIntyre, maybe these guys take off, go do some stuff, and then come back, and maybe they'll be refreshed. Maybe they'll be
the Christian Cage,
a little bit bigger than before. And so maybe sometimes getting released isn't the worst thing in the world. Everyone's really like, oh, how could they do that? Braun Strowman, how could they do that with Aleister Black? But maybe give them some space to breathe, and they'll come back around.
No, they're going to jump ship. They are truly going to jump ship. Once you release them and AEW comes, look at Mark Henry. Look at Mark Henry. That's the last person I thought was going to AEW. Mark Henry.
Right. Mark Henry had like a 20-year contract with the WWF from like 95 to and so like you said, it was a little shocking that that came to an end, but he was kind of I considered him a WWE lifer, but then that was interesting.
Hey,
a lot of those guys go.
Did you hear his interview? He said with Vince though, like that he talked to Vince, and it was coming from a good place. He said, just the opportunity presented itself that he wanted a better opportunity. They were talking about cuts; they weren't going to cut him from it, so they weren't going to cut him. But it was just a matter that he was being presented a better opportunity, and he had to take it. And Vince understood. So that's the thing about Vince. Like, you talk about this biopic, I would love to see that, because people treat Vince in a way that's like, oh, Vince has no soul. But I feel like at the same time, Vince is human, just like everybody else. And I think those are the sides that we see very rarely of Vince is usually like in like these documentaries, like Undertaker's documentary, where he shows a human side of himself because he is a human. But that's the thing about Vince is he's shown as like this larger than life character, but at the end of the day, he's just like you and me. You know what I mean?
Right. Well, Rick, speaking of opportunities, we want to obviously thank, our host
host, Sports Unfolded, for having us every week, 7 p.m. on Thursday. We do want to thank you guys. Seriously, we appreciate the opportunity to be able to do this, to be able to talk about this. And hopefully everybody that's watching right now will tune in next week at 7 p.m. Coming up real quick, we will be talking about Hell in a Cell next week. So look forward to that, because on Father's Day, June 20th, that's when Hell in a Cell is going down. So right now, as far as list of matches, real quick, all they have is Bobby Lashley with MVP versus Drew McIntyre, Rhea Ripley versus Charlotte Flair, and Bianca Belair versus Bayley. So I think, last chance Hell in a Cell match for the WWE Championship. For Bobby Lashley, it's just a singles match for Rhea and a singles match for Bianca and Bayley for the SmackDown and the Raw Women's Championships. But I'm not the wrestling guy. These two guys are going to be your two guys that you're going to go to for what's happening now, and they got to convince me to watch. Just saying, you got to convince me, man. I'll watch They Live 1,000 times over, but you got to convince me to watch Raw.
I have an hour to convince you to watch Rhea Ripley and Charlotte Flair. Like, come on.
Yeah.
That speaks for itself. I mean,
Right.
Yeah, it speaks for itself that Charlotte Flair is very greedy. Okay. That's it. But next week, we're going to be talking about Hell in a Cell more, so we're going to get more in depth with that, and more in depth on what matches are coming up. Because right now, they only got those 3 matches, and I'm not looking forward to any 3 of those matches. So, you boys got anything to finish us up with? To send us what? Take it home is the word I like to say.
I was just gonna say thank you for again bringing me on here so we can talk about wrestling, something that I love, something that has been with me for a long time. 20 almost 25 years now. So thanks for bringing me on here, and thanks to our hosts for Sports Unfolded for hosting the show as well. So
for hosting, Kenny,
welcome aboard, Nick. Welcome aboard, Nick.
Thank you.
Remember, guys, go out and vote. You got a week. We're going to figure out who did it best tonight. Who did it best? We got 3 faces. Who did it best? Who wants to win this belt the most? Go ahead and vote for either Nick, Rick, or Kenny on their opinions. Mine don't really count. I already have the belt. So really, it's between these two. Got to fight it out. But
you have to mail it to me if I win.
Also, we're going to have another poll. Where's Kenny going to be next week? Is he going to be in Egypt? Is he going to be in Aruba? Is he going to be in the Bahamas?
Yes.
You're going to decide for us.
He could just be on the roof. He could be down the corner at the 7-Eleven. He could be wherever he wants to be, man.
Yep.
We're going to find out next week. Thank you guys for having us, and thank you for watching the Wrestling Den. Talk about hope.